It's that time again to start back the old Three Fever Point After podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Alex Anderson, joined every week by Coach Jeff Harper, Bossier offensive coordinator now. We talked to the summer coach, and maybe we're getting out of coaching. You didn't have a long break.
No, it's Gary Smith.
Right.
We've talked about Gary. So
we have.
One of the best defensive-minded guys. I hold him in high regard, and so he's rebuilding Bossier's program, and he reached out when he heard I was coming back and kind of getting away from coaching for a little bit, and offered me a spot on his staff. That was in March.
Right.
And I didn't want to give any answers with my daughter moving to LSU and all that, and so come July, he texted me and said, "Are you ready to coach ball yet?" And at that point, everybody's playing 7-on-7, and it's that time of year where they you get ready for the team previews, and there's just a lot of excitement going on, and so that itch crept up, and so it's been good. I mean, it's really getting to be around Gary and his staff, and at the same time, they had a coordinator in place, but C.J. Morgan was the offensive coordinator last year, and I was there just to help him, but the guy played safety in the SEC for Mississippi State, and defense is really his thing, and so Gary's like, "Hey, why don't we just you do the offense, let me get C.J. helping Coach Hudson on defense," and so that's where we're at, man. Getting to coach a little ball.
Well, I know the kids at Bossier are going to it's a great benefit for them to have you on staff, and we're excited to have you back for another year. And man, interesting year for us locally. It feels like we have a ton of teams that are, this is kind of the year they've been waiting for. A lot of big senior classes for a lot of teams, but a spot where you excel or you teach primarily is quarterback with Gunslinger Quarterback Academy. And Daniel and I have kind of been calling it the year of the quarterback in Northwest Louisiana. Feels like every district you look in's got at least one or two of these guys heading into their senior year, juniors that have played a ton, some super sophomores coming up. Talk to me about some of these quarterbacks. I know there's a lot that you've worked with and are excited to watch.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, if you're going to talk quarterbacks in Northwest Louisiana, you got to start with Abram Wardell.
Right.
He won a state championship. Didn't really even play into the second half of many of his games last year. I think his stat line was like 266 of 340 for 3,883 yards and 45 touchdowns. The only reason I know that is because there was an article released, and I was just shocked. That was Coach Gulen's response. He just wins. I think he's 22-1 as a starter, and so you have him that's at the top when it comes to accomplishments and production, and then right there with him you have Ben Taylor, who's led the state in pass yards and touchdowns, and he's got unbelievable athletes around him, and Jarvis Davis and Kenny Darby, and so they're going to be extremely good, and he's going to put up big numbers. And then you got Luke Delafield, that's North DeSoto's quarterback's already played in a state championship game. And they've got a lot of talent. Everywhere you look, there's really, really talented quarterbacks, and it's going to be exciting to see how that all plays out. I mean, Malachi Ziegler at Benton, and then in the same district you've got Peyton Houston that's at Evangel now, and Owen Smith down at Natchitoches Central, who I coached last year, playing for Coach Laird, and so it's going to be fun to watch this year.
Yeah, I guess only bad news for scoreboard operators around town. There's
Absolutely.
going to be a lot of points piled up. And what you said about, what Coach Gulen said about Abram is similar to what Coach Scoggins said about Ben. The guy just wins.
Yep.
Puts up 4,000 yards, throws all these touchdowns. And what's interesting about those two, not a lot of huge college offers coming for those two yet.
No, and I think Abrams is more. Every college, especially D1 college, wants to recruit within the framework of what they want from their quarterback. They really want the 6'2" height. That's the thing they really want. They want long levers, long arms, and they want to be able to build them from the ground up in their program. It's the developmental talk. But when you watch Abram on film, he can make those throws. Me and his dad Philip are really good friends. He's a middle school head coach there. He's told me what the recruiters have said, and I think that's lost on people.
Yeah.
Number one, the transfer portal has killed high school recruiting. Number two, COVID. You still have people that are still, have that COVID year, and so quarterback rooms are full, and they're being very picky about what they're choosing, because let's be honest, college staffs don't have 4 or 5 years to build it. They really are expecting to be very good in 2 years. And so, with Abram, I think his is more measurable. It's not production, and it's not winning.
Right.
And then with Ben, Ben has been looked at by a lot of different schools, but he's been real selective on really where he wants to go and the type of program he wants to fit in. And so you're going to see, year in and year out, the quarterback recruiting process is just crazy because there's not a lot of spots for high school kids to land, especially in that Division I AA level.
And with the transfer portal, like you said, a guy like Ben Taylor going to Northwestern State, you expect him to have some success, and then it might be open for him. It's maybe a little delayed now, so we're excited for those two guys. And it was funny, you mentioned Abram's dad, Philip. I was on the sidelines at the Jamboree, and I mean, Abram, he that first touchdown, he went in, lowered the shoulder, and his dad, I was standing right next to him, I was like, "Oh, don't do that." It was so funny, and he had a couple of just dimes out there, and I looked over at Philip one time, and he said, "That's Coach Harper right there. That's gunslinger right there."
That right there is his attention to detail and his work ethic.
Right.
I could train him for an hour, and then his dad would send me a video of him doing the same drills in their gym. In their garage gym they have set up with his net, and he'd be throwing, not for an hour, but he would throw hundreds of balls.
Yeah.
And then he would work out, and he'd come back. And sometimes I was a little worried about overtraining, but he's that guy. He wants to be the best that he possibly can be, and to see where he's come from as a middle schooler to where he is now going into his senior years is a testament to his work ethic.
And when you think about a guy that goes into his first year as a starter in a quarterback competition, and obviously you've seen what he's done, and then you kind of see the impacts of all of that success, because then you look at Pop Houston, was at Calvary, didn't want to wait behind Abram, and now he's at Evangel. You mentioned Pop, you mentioned Malachi at Benton, two guys that are getting those offers already, but we haven't really seen them in a lot of game action as is. Talk to me about those two, and why are they, from a quarterback expert's perspective, why do people consider them so special?
Well, I was in Atlanta working the last Elite 11 event at Gainesville High School last month. And I can tell you, Pop Houston's name came up among the kids in his class. When they heard that I was from Shreveport, they knew that he's from Shreveport. So, number one, he's gone to the right camps. He's been exposed to the right people.
Right.
And then he's done well, when he's been in front of the coaches. And so that's just him, maximizing his opportunities. Malachi's the same thing. Now, the difference between Malachi and Peyton on the hoof is, one is your prototypical D1 build at 6'3". Peyton, right at 6 foot. Abram's right there at the 6 foot mark.
Right.
And so Peyton's got that elusiveness. He's extremely, athletic and can throw off platform, off schedule. When the pocket breaks down, he can get outside and his eyes are downfield. He throws with great velocity, but he also throws a catchable ball. And Malachi does the same thing. And I saw Malachi play some on film for Benton, and when Reynolds would put Malachi in the game and they would put Jeffrey King at receiver, they were a different offense.
Right.
I'm telling you, Malachi can do it, and he's got a huge arm. We played our last. I just joined the staff at Benton the end of July, and at Bossier, we were playing Benton at Bossier High School, and Malachi was out there, and just what you can always tell when you see top end talent.
Yeah.
You see it come out of their hand. It sounds different. It looks different. And he threw a ball in coverage, perfect window, and just blistered the receiver in the middle of the chest. And you're like, that's big time.
Right.
You just know it, right? Even CJ Morgan, Coach Morgan, standing there, and he played for SEC, Mississippi State safety, and he's shaking his head like, that's big time.
Yeah.
You can see it. It's just different. And so those two guys have got unreal talent and very high ceilings, and they did it at a young age, right there at their freshman year. Peyton right there going into his freshman year, a lot of looks, and they're maximizing their opportunities. And so now you're out of this whole what is he capable of conversation, and now it's real football. It's on you. The win-losses are on you, and that's where you're going to find out. Sophomore year, no one really expects sophomores to really produce. You know, there's a old saying in high school football that for every sophomore you have on the field, it's usually a loss. I don't think that applies to these two at all.
Right.
And it didn't apply to my quarterback last year at Natchitoches Central because he played great, and so as a sophomore. So it's going to be interesting to just see how they settle in. You know, both of them have tough schedules. You know, Peyton is in 1-5A, going from you know where Evangel was playing in the past in the 4A district now to a 5A district where there's no break.
Yeah.
Even your lower teams in 1-5A are good enough to beat you on any given Friday night. So those two I expect them to have really good years and just the start of
Right.
you know.
Well,
what would be
similar
great careers.
We sat here and talked about Luke down in North DeSoto starting sophomore year. What is he going to do? We heard his name. I think it's worked out for them too. So exciting for both of those. And I guess we can get right into 1-5A because we were just talking before we started, and I said, hold that because this is what we're doing here. You would think Airline going in is the favorite with Ben coming back, with all that talent they have. But then you have Parkway in the Jamboree kind of took it to them. So what are we thinking about 1-5A? It seems like every year of the past few we've gone in, the team that we think is going to win it usually does not.
Yeah, I would say being there, Parkway and Airline played before for us. We were the middle game, and it was a lot of mistakes by Airline. It is a Jamboree, and Parkway capitalizing on it.
Right.
And then Parkway not really giving the ball back and playing pretty good defense. So I think that Jamborees don't matter. In 2018, we won the Jamboree, lost to Halton.
Right.
You know, won the Jamboree the next year, lost to the same team that beat us at the Jamboree. So I think we played Halton back-to-back years. So I just know that those things don't really matter. But 1-5A is loaded, top to bottom, with just solid football teams and really good, well-coached teams. And so, you know, you see Shreve and Bird, right? You see them in the Jamboree, you turn around. It's always different in the regular season. And there is this old coach speak, you know, well, we're not going to show anything, right?
Right.
Well, I'm not saying that that's not true.
Yeah.
You are not showing your full offense, but you want to win,
Right.
Right? And you don't want to start your season off with a loss in a 2-quarter, you know, scrimmage game. But that's ultimately what it is, and it doesn't matter. So I think Airline is poised to be in that conversation. I think now that you add Evangel to it, no telling. You know, there is a little bit of that Little E syndrome, you know, where you look
definitely.
and that intimidation factor hits, especially if you play them there at their house. I know it was like that when they were in our district when I was coaching at Parkway. But, you know, at the end of the day, you spot the ball and you blow the whistle when you play the game. And so that district's going to be fun to watch.
And I feel like Bird is a team that no one's talking about. I mean, they were really young last year.
Yep.
A lot of those guys are back. They seem stable at quarterback with Harrison Ayers. Bird's a team that could sneak in and win this whole thing.
There's no doubt. I mean, you got to stop midline veer. You know, You got to stop the rocket toss. Now you don't have Suggs calling it, but Coach Leone does a really good job. And you know, Harrison's one of those guys that trains with me 2 days a week from January to the end of August, and he's put in a ton of work to, you know, just create a natural stroke and be accurate and be able to self-correct on game nights when you don't have a, you know, coach that can tell you mechanically what's wrong. You know, so he's a kid. He's a competitor. He's tough as nails. He's a really good wrestler, and he fits what they do. Plus, he's a really good leader. So Bird's always going to be in the conversation. Coach Ballou, being a defensive-minded coach, you know he's going to have a defense ready. And then, you know, you look at Shreve, and you know, you don't know what they're going to be, but yet you know they're going to be loaded with talent. And then you throw Huntington in the mix. And then listen, I haven't thrown a wild card at you yet, okay? But I'm going to throw one at you now.
Here we go.
To me, if you want the dark horse in 1-5A, based off of the talent level that they have and the job that Coach Dennis has done building a winner. And year in and year out, they're there. Huntington's legit. Yeah. And they would be the team that I would say, do you think anybody could sneak in and challenge, you know, the Airlines, the Shreves for that district? Because Shreve, you know, they won it last year. Yes. After watching Huntington in their scrimmage game, watching what they did in their Jamboree, the fact that they're big on both sides of the ball, and you win football games in the trenches, and they're going to have athletes. They're led by L.J. White, one of the guys that I've worked with, really good leader, senior quarterback, returner. They've got skill, everywhere. Remember the name Speedy, all right? He's one of their shifty skill guys, comes and trains with LJ. Unbelievable athlete. They're huge up front.
Yep.
I love what they're doing on offense. Absolutely love it. Just the way that their personnel and teams and then the desire to run the ball down your throat, make you stop the run. They're going to be tough to beat, very tough to beat. So I would say Huntington would be that team that could surprise everybody and win that district, and I've been vocal about that. But then again, you look out there and you've got Reynolds Moore, who, he's been in the district now, 6 years, and they got a lot of kids back. Now Reynolds will always tell you, we don't know yet. We got this, that, and the other. The dude can coach.
Right.
Reynolds is one of the best coaches I've worked for, and so he's going to have his team ready. And then of course Parkway, my alma mater, they're going to be athletic. They're going to be big up front. Big up front. May have one of the biggest offensive lines, and they've got returners.
Yep.
Gladney is arguably the best athlete in the district,
and he had our kid of the week.
He did, and he's playing both sides of the ball, and KB can spin it. So they're going to be very talented. They're going to be in the conversation. So I just mentioned 5 teams.
Yeah.
Right? and it's going to be fun to watch how all that plays out.
And Coach Dennis did tell us when we did our countdown story with them, that was the number one thing he was raving about, the size up front. Mm-hmm. Said he'd never had a team like this at Huntington in terms of the way that they can kind of maul you up front.
Oh, yeah.
I asked one of their linemen, what are you guys going to bring to the field this year? He didn't say a word. He just flexed for me. I was like, it's going to be like that for us. We're going to be physical. So Huntington, I love Huntington. I love Coach Dennis. I feel like they're always my dark horse. So I'm kind of like shying away from it because I don't want to be wrong for the 6th year in a row. But I would love to see them compete in this league. It's going to be so fun. 1-5A, top to bottom, like you said, it's almost like the SEC of our area. They beat up on each other, and you just don't know who's going to come out on top.
Well, and you have familiarity there. Those kids have grown up playing against each other. And people will say, especially the playoff brackets come around, 1-5A, those guys underachieve or whatever. I've heard everything. I will say this. It doesn't matter how long you've been playing against someone, how much better you think you're going to be on Friday night in 1-5A, anybody can win. Anybody can win. And we saw that last year at Natchitoches Central. Jess was rebuilding a program, and we lost 5 district games in the last quarter. Right. I think 4 in a row on the last play. And so it is one of those deals where 1-5A is very tough. It's very competitive, regardless of record. It's a tough district to play in.
Yeah, for sure, and we're excited to see it. And as I don't know if I said it out loud, but it is week 1 in Louisiana. That's why we're sitting here talking about this. You go down to 1-4A, and to me at least, it's tough to see North DeSoto giving up that crown this year.
Yeah, I'm becoming familiar with that district now, and North DeSoto's loaded. They're going to be extremely athletic and well coached, or arguably by one of the best coaches, if not the best coach in the state. And so Coach Dunn has done an incredible job with them, and I'm glad we get them week 10.
Yeah, right.
I don't want to deal with them before then. Tempo, Delafield's spinning it. Plenty of talent around him.
Cole
Corey's arguably the best slot receiver around, and just going to be a very fun season for those guys. And they got big goals.
Right.
They're semifinals last year. Opelousas beats them, and then turn around, in their backyard. Then Opelousas goes and dominates in the dome.
Right.
That is on their mind, and that's something that they want to get back there, because they could have won it 2 years ago. So they're definitely going to be in the conversation. So is Northwood.
Yep.
Even though they're young and lost some talent and lost some senior leadership, they're going to be very athletic. Year in and year out, Minden produces a ton of athletes every single year in size, 2 things that are hard to come by, and they've got those guys coming back, and they have a really good QB, 6'3" kid that throws a pretty ball, and so Spencer Hurd and his staff will be very, very good, well coached. The other one, and this one that I learned a lot about last year, just playing them, and that was Southwood.
Right, yeah, I forget they're moving down.
Mike Green can coach, man. And he's got some talent. He's got dudes that can play. And then Coach Harris's Woodlawn bunch.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in just a minute.
They're legit too. So we had to play both of those teams last year on our schedule, week 1 and then week 4, I think, or week 5. And Southwood was extremely athletic, and I think they scored 28 points on us. And then I think that Woodlawn scored 28 or 30 points on us. And so those teams have athletes and well coached. And then I didn't even mention Coach Cooper's BTW Lions, I mean, they're going to be good
Yeah.
too. So there's not a, you just don't know. I don't know, but there's, you got North DeSoto, Northwood, and then you got everybody else trying to figure out what
Right.
that's going to look like, and then you got to add Loyola into the mix, and
Right.
they're going to be well coached too with Sella taking over
his
for
first year,
Coach
yeah.
Green. So it'll be fun to watch how that all shakes down.
And my observations from I was out at Booker T. Washington Friday for the Jamboree there, Woodlawn, the Lions, and Southwood, and I noticed Southwood seemed so much more. I don't know the word is organized that I'm looking for. I guess together would be a better sense of that. Kind of a vibe you hadn't had around that team in a long time. And Woodlawn, and I wish I could pull this name out of the ether, but number 14, the running back for them, he was running through everyone out there. So
Yeah.
I think they're going to be a fun couple teams to watch. Some wrinkles in 1-4A that'll be interesting. I do want to jump around because I do want to talk about some matchups this week because we have a lot of them. But let's go to 1A because there's 3 teams that we always talk about a lot in 1A. Homer, Haynesville, and Logansport. How much do you know about those 3, and which one of those or how many of those do you think has a real chance at contending for a title this year?
So I'd be lying if I'd say I've watched film on all 3. I know that Logansport, Coach McGee, they're always going to be good. And that sounds like a cop-out, but it's true.
Yeah.
He does a great job, and he's had talent in that program every year. And when you expect them, they lose some really good kids. Next thing you know, they're making a run at the Dome. So I expect Logansport to still be in the conversation. Keaton Kaysen, their quarterback, is a kid that trained with me some this offseason before baseball season started. He throws a good ball. He played some defense, played on both sides of the ball last year, very tough. So that's the type of kid they have in their program. We're getting them week 3.
Yeah.
So we'll figure out a lot of that when we turn the film on, but I know they're going to be good. I have seen Homer on film, and I have seen Haynesville on film, and both of them are good.
Oh, yeah.
And Haynesville looks the part, as they always do. And then I know Homer played Bossier in the spring game. I just went back and watched a little bit of it, and they're super athletic, lots of size, and they're going to be in the mix too.
And I've noticed with Coach Franklin out at Haynesville, Daniel kind of said this to me as well, and you could see it in our countdown story that we did with them. A little more emotion from him than we've seen in years past. He's very usually he kind of is the model for coach speak, if you will, right? And he was pretty frank with Daniel in that story, saying, "Man, we do not want to go down there and lose that game again.
Yeah.
Like it's been long enough that we haven't won one." So they seem like a determined bunch, and 1A is always those 3 teams always give us a lot to talk about. So. We can't cover everyone, of course. We already think we're nearing 30 minutes as is. But in terms of the matchups in week 1, interesting, in the spirit of what was the battle on the border, a lot of Monroe, Shreveport matchups. Our game of the week, we talked a lot about Evangel already, but Evangel Neville, remember a couple of years ago they tried to do this thing, it was rained out. It was when they had to get the turf field because it was so bad. What a test for the Eagles to start things out against another power in Louisiana.
Well, and last year I think they lost by 1 point
Right.
at Neville. So I expect that is clearly communicated that they don't want to do that again, to play as well as they did last year. So that's going to be a good one to watch. And 2, I mean, you've got a new head coach in Neville, a new way of doing things, and so it'll be interesting to see what they look like. They've always been known for defense, and I still think they're going to be known for defense. I know their quarterback, Amon Fuller, he graduated. Now he's at Centenary. He's a kid that I've trained for the last 2 years, and so losing that guy, I mean, I know that they've got somebody waiting in the wings, and so that'll be a good one. Plus, I will say this: Evangel doesn't want to start in the hole.
Right.
They don't want to do that, and so I know that they're going to be jacked up, ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, a good way to make a statement, regardless of the year, beating Neville is you celebrate that.
Yep.
So obviously we can be biased in this
Yeah.
respect. We're rooting for the Eagles. We always root for the local teams. And another one, Calvary Oak Grove. You talk about some state championship pedigree out on that field Friday night.
Well, you got 2 quarterbacks. Both of them played unbelievable games in the Dome last year.
Right.
I think the Bradley kid had over 400 yards, all-purpose offense. I think it was almost 400 yards rushing.
Right.
And just ridiculous numbers. And then Abram, game-winning drive, throws the dime to KT in the end zone. That's going to be a fun one. I was really hoping that I'd have Friday night and I can go watch that one. That's the one I wanted to see. So it's going to be a war. I will say this. Calvary is super athletic, got lots of guys, but they also have some of their best players going both ways. And so they're going to make sure that they can maximize talent when another team shows up, and they got dudes on the other side of the ball. So Coach Guin will have those cats ready to go. And I expect it to be a lot like the Jamboree Forum this past week with Union.
Yeah.
That was another state championship team.
Yep.
I mean, Calvary runs from no one.
No.
You look at their schedule; they're scared of no one, and I love that. I love that about them.
Oh yeah, when I was visiting them at practice during the preseason, they were all the players. Even if I didn't ask it, they kind of brought that up. Hey, remember Shreve and Bird last year? That was pretty cool, right? That they take a lot of pride in taking on those bigger schools or those state championship type of teams and winning those games. We have our Sydney Lane will be out live at that little Houghton connection with Coach Guin there, so we love to see that. Another team that we did talk a lot about, but another great test for Huntington. Go to West Monroe. You want to talk about testing that front? Perfect place to do it.
If anybody can go to West Monroe and be able to withstand what's going to happen for 4 quarters and the type of ball that West Monroe plays, it's Huntington.
Yeah.
And I would not be surprised if they go over there and win by multiple scores.
Wow.
I mean, they're just – when I saw them, I was very impressed. And,
Yeah.
A lot of coaches don't get super impressed when they watch somebody in a scrimmage game. And then you take into consideration who they're playing. And, North Caddo in that scrimmage game is very athletic and big. And then Manny, is got the pedigree, and they were big. And Huntington was moving the ball and playing incredible defense and trotting, 4 or 5 different linemen out there on defense, and then changing, all these skill guys on off. I was super, super impressed. So I say all that to say, West Monroe probably paying them to come play, and they're going to pretty much pay Huntington and probably, be in a dogfight for 4 quarters, and may not be a win.
Man, that'd be a great way to start it off for us locally. Carroll's playing Parkway here at home. Another Monroe Shreveport Bossier showdown. Opelousas is at Shreve. We're seeing a lot of this, and it's good because I do think that the Monroe and Shreveport areas do kind of have a much different reputation,
Sure.
Statewide, right?
Sure.
So I think a great opportunity for our teams to week 1, hey, we're here, and show the rest of the state what we have. So I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, and I think that Ouachita-Shreve game, I think Shreve, it's a really good matchup for them, just because they've got new system. Ouachita's coming into it, not really knowing what you're going to get as far as who's playing where and who's back and what Shreve's offense and defense going to look like. So I think that plays well for Shreve, and of course they'll match them talent for talent, skill wise and size wise. But I've seen Ouachita on film already this year, and I think that Shreve matches up really well. And athlete for athlete, I think they have as many, if not more. So that's going to be a fun one to see how it breaks down.
Another good one too. We had Union Parish going to North DeSoto. I mean, another heck of a matchup to start it off.
Yeah, the Spatafores, they travel, and they love a good matchup. Coach Spatafore, I coached with his son at Natchez Central and Red River, Chase, and they're going to get in the eye, and they're going to run counter, and they're going to run veer. And if you can't stop it, he's going to run it until the clock says 0. That's how he plays.
Yeah, that's it.
It's the same guy that hired Carroll's band to play for all their playoff games and even paid for them to go to the Dome. And then when they won it, got everybody in the band from Carroll state championship
That's
race.
so good.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a fan of Union Parish. I love the way they play ball and Coach Spat. So that's going to be a fun game to see too.
So, man, we got a loaded slate. You guys are on the road this week.
North Caddo, yes, sir.
North Caddo, so there you go. And I believe I saw a story North Caddo's coach got engaged there.
He did.
So that's
Yeah.
good. Congrats to Chase there, and certainly love to see all this stuff. Man, it's just good to be sitting here talking ball with you, man.
Absolutely, man. I'm excited for another year.
Yep, and it's here. I mean, I can't believe how fast it gets here every year, but we're excited. So we're going to do this every week. The show we record it on Tuesdays, but the show will come out on Wednesdays. I guess before we log it off, we clocked in a solid 30 minutes. That's right on the mark. Anything else you'd like to add? Any little secret or something that fans should be watching out for on Friday nights this year?
No secrets. Just excited to see these kids, especially the guys that I've been working with and kids that I've coached.
Right.
Those senior year comes and boom, it's over like that. And so wishing all those kids the best of luck this year. see those quarterbacks cut it loose, put up big points this year.
Yeah, looking forward to it. And the best thing about you actually being in town now is that you can sit here with
Absolutely.
me, and we can have some guests on. So we'll be bringing in some guys. I would love to talk to all of those quarterbacks we just mentioned at some point this year, because just getting their perspective with you asking them questions is unique, and it's something that I can't get into that headspace, not being able to throw the ball very well, as we've learned through the years. So that'll be your greatest project yet, getting me to throw a spiral.
I'll try.
Yeah, who could forget the Dak warm-up drill from
man.
a few years ago? So we scrubbed that tape.
Cringeworthy.
We'll move on from that. Coach Harper, you're the man. Check out the Bossier Bearcats. You're going to love their offense, I can guarantee that. And thanks for tuning in to episode 1 of the 2024 edition of the Point After 3 Fever podcast. We'll see you on Friday nights.